Okay, so here is the latest with Ohtani. The Players Association extended the deadline 24 hours for an agreement between the Professional League in Japan and Major League Baseball. It's now 8 p.m. on Tuesday instead of 8 p.m. tonight. If they don't come to a deal, he can't come here. If they do, he can. Simple as that. And we welcome Daily News baseball columnist John Harper back to the show to sort through this further. From what you're hearing, Harp, does it seem more likely than not that this all ends up okay, that this all gets settled?
Yeah, people I talked to tonight, Doug, seem to think it's a good sign that they extended the deadline, that there's progress being made. But you really don't know because nobody seems to know exactly what the issue is. The primary issue is between the Japanese League and the MLB. There's a $20 million posting fee goes to the team. And that would be in the case of a Tanaka getting $155 million. So now that same posting fee is hugely exaggerated in terms of what Ohtani is going to get. Now, he's only going to get $3.5 million maximum as a signing bonus. The Players Association wants to protect the players in those type of rights. And as simple as it seems to be able to, you would think they'd figure this out. Somebody pointed out to me tonight, don't forget, the Players Association once stood in the way of Alex Rodriguez wanting to cut his salary to go to the Red Sox. So the Players Association has its principles, and it's not necessarily going to back down to it from them unless they think they have an agreement.
It's pretty crazy to think that Ohtani's coming earlier than most Japanese players who come over. So his salary, once this $20 million is off the board, is going to be for a very young Major League player. So he really wants to get out here and play Major League Baseball. Let's check in, Harp, with the Yankees in their search for their next manager. The last guy that they interviewed was Chris Woodward. What are you hearing there? Do you think that their next manager has already been interviewed, or is there some sexy candidate down the line that we haven't heard of yet that Brian Cashman hasn't spoken?
Well, that's what, this is not a sexy list. We know that for sure. So you wonder. I know Woodward comes highly recommended by Andrew Friedman, who is a guy that Cashman talks to regularly. He's kind of a like-minded guy in terms of analytics, things like that. Same with Hensley Mullins and the Giants GM Brian Sabian. He's supposedly a guy that might eventually follow Bruce Bochy, succeed Bruce Bochy. So I think Cashman is open to looking for a guy like this, who's not necessarily a big name, but a guy that he thinks is intriguing and has the right credentials in terms of knowing analytics, knowing how to relate to players, all those things we've heard about. I think any one of these guys they've interviewed with, Eric Wedge is the guy that kind of stands out as the exception, but the other guys all have those, seem to have those credentials.
If anyone's keeping track at home, Doug's list of candidates that have yet to be interviewed: Carlos Beltran, Mark DeRosa, Jason Giambi. Just one guy.
Don't forget Cohen. Don't forget my guy David Cohen.
I'd like to see that too. John Flaherty, throw him in there as well. Over to the Mets, one story that we heard from John Morosi tonight, Harp, was that they're interested potentially in Ian Kinsler. They've talked to the Tigers about him. Do you think that makes sense as a fit?
I do, yeah. They have to find ways to fill a lot of holes there. And a guy, Ian Kinsler, it's not going to cost him a lot in terms of what they'd have to give back to the Tigers. He makes $11 million next year. He only has 1 year remaining on his contract, so the Tigers are looking to move him just to get out from under that salary. So it does make sense. You could put him in at second base, and that $11 million is a nice 1-year deal. You can go out and spend some money and fill on other holes. Whereas if you're going to go get a free agent somewhere else, it's going to cost you a lot more than that. I think Kinsler had kind of a down year. He's 35 years old, but he is a guy that's put up pretty big numbers for second base for years now. I think he'd be worth a gamble, yeah.
And in terms of defense, we've heard Rico and Sandy Alderson this offseason talk about how they're going to start to pay more attention to defense than they have in the last few years. Do you think Kinsler would add to that? Or are they looking for athleticism? They want an improvement really across the diamond. Is second base a priority in that mind? Keep in mind you've had Neil Walker there, who was sure-handed but didn't necessarily cover a lot of ground.
Yeah, I mean, they're talking better defense, but I think it really comes down to the player. They're trying to get better any way they can. They know they don't have that strikeout staff that they thought they had a couple years ago, even going into last year. They need to play better defense, especially up the middle. Kinsler is a solid guy. He's a good guy at second base, so he would fit there. I don't think it's going to be a team-wide philosophy shift or anything like that, but if they can make a move that makes sense, because Kinsler gives you offense as well, then I think they'll try and improve the defense.